Welcome to the Master Your Millions podcast, the show all about your financial potential and leaving a legacy for future generations. Here are your hosts, Jason and Scott Henderson.
Welcome back. As I promised last week, this week will be part 2 of this episode, and we'll get right to it. One of the things you sort of have blasted past is you met a mentor. And that mentor then, that's the external, right? That really is the external
He was
ingredient.
my outside ingredient.
Right.
He was my outside ingredient. Even so, I was a very good coach making very good money, and I was miserable. And people were getting changed from the things that I was teaching them because I was teaching them new information, but I wasn't getting new information for me. It was all, yeah, I've practiced that. But because I had such wonky thinking, I'm owning it totally. I was not thinking clearly at all. I needed somebody to challenge me. I needed somebody to come in who could think in my favor, didn't tell me what was true, didn't tell me that they knew what was happening, but asked me the questions that he heard. Oh, I heard you say this, and that's an interesting opinion. This is one of the very first things he did. That I heard you say this, that's an interesting opinion. And the little kid that was me was going, opinion? Huh? That's a fact, I said. And he goes, well, that's really an interesting opinion that somebody told you as a fact. Where'd you learn that? And then I'd go back and he'd go, yeah, I'll tell you some science about that. And then I learned new facts, and that's a new ingredient.
Okay, were you looking? I mean, did you have enough self-awareness that I'm happy on the inside, I'm getting the external greatness, I'm helping other people, and they're getting results? Were you looking for the mentor, or the teacher appeared when the pupil was ready? Just simply one of those type of things.
Yes, and it's my whole life I've been hungry. And I suspect that the people that are listening to your podcast are hungry. And I know you as well as I know you, which is, just loosely, you're a hungry human. And that's why you do what you do. That's why you're Dr. J. It's why you do a podcast, because you're always growing and learning. So I was always going to be searching for my solutions. I was a profoundly injured human because of life. And many of us everybody's injured. Every single one of us gets injuries. It's called life. And some of us get more profound injuries than others. And some of us aren't even aware that we're injured, but we all get them. So I was always looking for solutions. I knew, because of how wonky my childhood was, there's something not right. There's something I don't know. And I had this agitation of not knowing. And it was a journey. So at first I looked for a therapist, and I never found a therapist that could give me second order change, help me create second order change. I dove deep into my religion, and I did not experience. I did the things, I lived the rules, and I did not get the change I needed. So I'm a hungry human. I'm a curious human. And that's what happens, is that we all find our teachers when we're ready for them, and we decide when we're ready for them. And I became a coach. I was trained by a coach. I was trained by another coach. I got more great training from a coach. I became a coach. I became a good coach. And if you're going to be a great coach, and I have that hunger to be great at whatever I do, I'm not saying I am at it. I have the hunger for it. Somebody who wants greatness will always be searching for somebody who will show them what they're not doing well yet.
So can we say that mistake number 3 is always being content enough in the feedback loop that we're not looking for ways out? Because part of it, we're unaware. Part of it, we're absolutely unaware.
A lot of unawareness. I had no idea that I found my childhood inhospitable until I was in my 40s. I literally, one of my cohorts, when I was the head of the women's organization, I said, hey, I haven't talked to you for a while. She goes, I know, I've been busy. My friend's going through a really hard time. She had a terrible childhood. And she stops and she goes, not nearly as bad as yours, but really rough. And I was like, whoa. And I got off the phone, because she's just the yummiest, loveliest person ever. And I got off the phone and go, she had a bad childhood. What? I didn't even know. So we're all unaware, because we can't know. It's the fabric of how we came into life. There's so much we can't know. But when people reflect stuff back to us and we go, what? Curiosity. I wouldn't say the mistake. I would say the mistake is not being curious. I wouldn't say that it's being
That's better
satisfied because
said.
I
You
love
always say it better than
satisfaction.
me.
I don't know what the it is, but I am good at what I do. And the reason I am so I'm going to be sassy and I'm going to go against exactly how I was raised. And remember when I told you that my mentor said to me, "Oh, that's an interesting opinion." I'm going to
Yes.
first I'm going to tell you what it was, and then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to say. So I said to my mentor, how I grew up is I said, if you think you're really good at something, and I won't swear, but you can, if you think you're really good at something, you become a butthole, is what I said to him. I always take my gloves off of him and I say terrible words and things. So just imagine I was swearing worse than that. So I said, if you think you're really good at something, if you decide that you're talented or good at something, you'll become a butthole. And he goes, what an interesting opinion. Who taught you that? And I was like, what? That's a fact. It's ego. Gross. Ew. Because we all know we've met people who are like, I'm so great. I'm so amazing. I'm so good. You should really be like me because I'm so great. And we all know that. And we go, gross. I don't want to do that. And so that's what I thought we were talking about. And he goes, no, that is not true. And I said, so you can think really nice, happy thoughts about yourself and not be a jerk? And he's like, yeah, you didn't think you're good. And I was like, no. And I mean, literally, I actually had a conversation with a family member and I said this, and they're like, that's wrong. That's not a fact. You are absolutely wrong. If you think nice thoughts about yourself, you become a jerk. So anyway, so I said, okay. He said, would you be willing to experiment with it? And I said, you mean thinking nice thoughts about myself? And I was like, okay, yeah. So then I wanted to get my terms because I'm like, this is dangerous practice. I was like, so you're saying for the next week before we talk again, I should think as many nice thoughts about myself as I want, like walk past and go, hey, sex thing. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, and you're saying I won't become a butthole. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, what about like, I'm such a good coach. Can I think that? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I take it on the road. I told you I have an intense personality. So I'm like, I'm doing the thing and I'm doing it. I'm like, hey, sex based, I'm talking real sweet to me. So we get on our call, the next call, and he's like, so I got to know, how did you turn into a butthole? And I go, I don't care. And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, I feel so much better. Nobody reported to me that I was awful. Nobody told me that I had a ton of ego. I just believed that if I thought nice things about myself, that I would just become an egomaniacal jerk. But it turns out that's not a thing. People who aren't thinking nice thoughts about themselves are the ones that act hinky like that. So I'm one of the best coaches in the world. I may be the best coach in the world because I don't hear people teach. There's always this missing ingredient that I don't know your answers. I don't know your solutions, but I need very refined, highly tuned, highly trained and mentored human who knows how to ask you the questions to find out what you actually want. I'm second order change. I had somebody say to me today, a very, very well connected, well healed person, I have never met anybody like you again. I like you before. And I said, and you probably ever won't again. I said, what made me doesn't happen very often. And most people don't get to heal from it. And so I'm this highly tuned person. You said, and this goes to what you said, Michelle, you always say it better. And I go, yeah, when I talk about this stuff, because I've studied it really hard, because I needed to learn it, because I was dying on the inside and I would have died if I hadn't figured out what was bothering me. And that's why I say it better, because it matters so much to me, because it saved my life. And I think everybody should get to feel happy. And so I'm good at it. And that's why I train myself to say it well. You
Wow.
say it well. You say it well too.
Well, thank you.
I'm trained to say it and communicate it.
And this, what we're talking about, this feedback loop, this getting on our own way, not only applies to, well, it applies to all areas of wealth, right? A true wealth. And is there anything more
100%.
valuable than joy? And is there anything more valuable than happiness? I mean, true joy, right? I mean, you can,
Right?
because I was sitting there listening to, well, you become really good at something and you become a butthole. I said, well, you can also say that, well, people that get really wealthy, they become jerks,
Oh yeah,
right? And
let's
they're
say that.
arrogant.
Oh, I should have used that one. Rich people are jerks. If you love money, you don't love humans. All those kinds of things that we've watched, the yucky behaviors that we go, I don't want to do that, but we haven't actually mined what real wealth means. we think it means that we get to act like buttholes if we choose because we have so much money that we can. And we then make us up a story that that's who we want to be. And if you don't want to be that person, you're not going to be that person, whether you have a lot of money or not.
Absolutely. Uh, well, and as we're going along in that, so we can break through that. So this really for you or for the listeners, I should say, that they could utilize your courses or your um, personal coaching to help them get to break out whatever it is, to break out of their feedback loop that they don't know they're in, right? Whether they're a real estate investor, a
Yeah.
dentist, and I could just name a whole bunch of different professions. Because we say in the part of our podcast, we always say it all the time that really mastering your millions starts with your mind and your team. Well, part of what we've been talking about is a big portion we were talking about is what's
Yes.
going on in our life. However, when you said, well, I met a mentor, and you just went right past it, and I wanted to say, put on the brakes because
Thank
that
you.
was
Thank you.
so
And I
key. That's
do.
so key to your
It is.
success is you
And
met the
mentoring,
right person.
the mentoring piece, that bit, how anybody can receive it, they do need to receive it if they want to achieve things. First of all, if they want to achieve something they've never achieved before, then they're going to want a mentor who knows things they don't know. That's just science. That's just right there. And it's especially hard for some of us who didn't have proximal examples, people close to us that were modeling any of the things that we want, any of the healthy behaviors, any of their yummy relationships with money, which is energy, right? So we didn't have those. When we don't have those examples, it becomes especially difficult. And then mentors become especially important. And part of me saying, yes, I'm particularly good as an outside ingredient. The reason is because of what I told you. I was socialized in such a funky way, and I have such a funky way about me that's natural anyway. I use words differently than most people do. I've studied different things that most people have. I've studied more than most people have because I thought I was trying to catch up with everybody else. I thought the whole world knew so much more than me that I like obsessively studied. So what I do now is I work with very highly successful people. I said I'm one of the best in the world, and I work with highly successful people who they don't want a therapist because the therapist isn't teaching them that what they want to learn to get what they want. And that therapist can't teach them what they want to know because somebody can't guide you to get what you want if they can't go there. So what I do is I'm an outside ingredient almost all of the time because I think different, I look different, I act different, I talk different, I've studied different things. So what I love about being me, and this goes to mentorship, and it's true, I literally, Jason, I was speaking at an event in Dallas a couple of weeks ago, and our anniversary is adorably on Valentine's Day. And so my husband took me out to dinner at a gorgeous restaurant in Dallas. So those of you in Dallas will know the French Room. And it was a 5-course meal, an extravaganza. It was so much fun. I had such a good time. And I also had one mixed drink, which apparently is plenty for me because I then did not remember giving the server my card. So when I got an email from him telling me that I had changed his life, I'm like, did this dude stalk me? What happened? And I'm not joking. Like, he was our server, and we had a super lovely romantic dinner. It wasn't like I sat down with him and I was coaching him. He just came up, said a few things. And because of how I am, I said a few things back because I knew what he meant. And he messaged me and he said, I've been doing a lot of work on myself, but something happened. And when I woke up on Saturday morning, I felt enlightened, and I know it had something to do with our conversation. Thank you. And what was gorgeous to me is I did my job. I did my job. Nothing more is needed. All I did was reflect back to him. I heard him say something. I reflected a truth back to him succinctly. So the way people can be mentored is like that. That is one way I mentor. I love it. Another way people can be mentored, so in just normal conversation. So I hope, it is my dearest hope that you've heard me say something that you're like, oh, that right there, that's mine. I love that. I'm going to play with that and think about it, because that's how people can make real change. And because a second order change can literally just happen because I added you're like, what? Nutmeg in my soup? No, I've never thought of that. Tastes amazing. That's really good. So it can just happen like that. That's just it. Here's a suggestion. I said it in a different way than you ever heard it. You felt it and it's received it. So another way, you said, I have programs. So I have a digital program, and this is a soft serve for somebody. Somebody recently said to me, I don't know that I ever want to work with anybody, but if I work with anybody, it'll be you. And I said, here's my soft serve. I have a digital course. And so if anybody wants to know about the digital course, the easy one, because I have a present for your listeners, I'll tell you about. So I have a digital course. So that's a soft serve where you can hear me talk like I talk here, only tell my story very specifically and the very specific principles. So that can be a very easy, private. You don't even have to be telling anybody you're entertaining outside ingredients. But that is one way to do it. And then I teach group courses live. I have one group course that I do live right now called The Science of Your Success. And then I have a handful, because I can only entertain a few people at one time, of one-on-one clients where I get to mentor them and teach people unabashedly the things that we're talking about today, that instantly that people can just change their minds. And literally people will engage with me to learn about marketing. People engage with me because they want to talk about their contracts. They've got a really bad contract with somebody who's not paying them, and and that's why they engage with me. They will pay me high dollar amounts because somebody's not paying them, and I teach them the outside ingredients that get them the money or let them know they will not be getting the money, and then they can make their next move. And so those are the ways that I mentor people. And the fact is, what I would share with everybody on here is true wealth is when you share your mentoring with everybody. When you just you don't tell people what they should do or what you need to know. But when you hear people say, oh, I'm really interested in wealth, and you notice it and you say, oh, tell me more about that. You are present with people. That's the way that you can mentor them, is be present to your wisdom, Jason. When you're present with your wisdom, then you share with others. And that's deep mentoring, even if it's in a grocery line.
So I'm certain there's listeners right now thinking, okay, Jason, ask her when's the next time she's going to be in a certain location going out to a restaurant, and I'm going to go get a job as a waiter so I can interact. I want to have that interaction and be able to just have a conversation with her. Can you give us a detailed out there, or how is it that someone would be able to say, I want to say a few things to her and see what she reflects back to me?
So, Jason, I was talking with my team about you and your listeners on Tuesday. I have a weekly meeting with my marketing team because I don't implement those things. I can just tell you the psychology and the words around it. So I was talking to them about you, and they're like, okay, tell us about Jason, tell us about his podcast, tell us about his listeners. And so the first thing I want to say to you is, again, it's an honor to be here. I'm just so grateful that you would invite me and want to have this conversation with me. And I'm really honored for the people who have been listening to this and have gotten some value from it. And if they're asking themselves the question, what my team said, we know what we need to do. And I have a 15-minute complimentary call for anybody who's like, I would like to hear more about that, or I would like to talk to her for 10 minutes and then have her tell me what she heard. For you and your listeners, I have a link that you can engage with me and we can talk one-on-one. I would be delighted to do. I don't do it very often. I haven't done it for quite some time. And I used to put $25 on it because I was just like, most people won't even think it's worth $25, and that'll save me the time of talking to people who won't receive it. But you and the people that are wondering, what does wealth mean to me? I am excited to have those conversations because I love being a thought or saying something you've always heard and saying it in a different way that I get to hear you receive it. So that's what I have for you. Is that all right?
Oh, that's awesome. And everyone, that'll be great. That's really cool. I'll probably take it myself.
Yay.
Although I've had this time with you myself.
I would love that. I would love that.
But we'll put that in the show notes. That's really
perfect.
Thank you so much. And thanks on behalf of everybody to listen. And for that, all the listeners should right now give us a 5-star review and subscribe and help us all.
Yes, please.
with the analytics. Michelle, this has been such a delightful conversation, and I know that the conversation could go on. There is one thing.
Well, it will. We will.
Oh, I'm certain. There's one thing that we sort of we always ask people, what's the next mountain you're going to climb, or what's your next big goal? And with that, is an invitation to come back when you've reached it. So, for example, we had someone says, my goal is I want to speak to an audience of 100,000 people live. It's like, okay, when that happens in the event, you can tell me beforehand, I'll be on the front row, yet we're coming back and having a celebratory podcast together. Can you say something there, put it out to the universe? That's what you'd like, the next big goal, and then commit, say, Jason, I'm coming back on the podcast when that happens.
Absolutely. What a kindness you're offering people. They're in math and physics and I know I'm talking to somebody who knows math and physics way better than I do. So I know what I just did there. In math and physics, when we say an idea out loud, when we have a thought or an idea, it actually has a mathematical value to it. When we say that thought or idea out loud, it actually becomes more valuable. There's more to it. And that's why they say write down a goal. So when I say out loud to another human, right, because where this goes back biblically, where two or more are gathered in my name, there will I be also. So when I say so, and I'm just making that math now, when I say out loud, this is what I see in my future, and you hear it. And even if your brain's going to hear it different than I mean it, but it mathematically has more value. And then your listeners, it will mathematically have more value. And so I say that because as soon as you said the thing, I smiled because I thought, if we had this conversation 2 weeks ago, you would have gotten a completely different answer from me. And I will tell you that the last 3 weeks have just really kicked my behind. I have really had I just had a whole bunch of realizations about what I've been doing in my life and what I've been doing and thinking that has held me back. And wow. And I'm really paying attention to the reflections that other people are giving me. And so here I am doing a podcast, and I am going to say out loud this audacious thing that when I talked out loud with my mentor, because I check my work with my mentor, especially when I go out on a limb like this. And I said, I would like to talk to you about delusions of grandeur. That's what I said. This is me being honest. And he laughed, and he took the moment, as he always does, to teach me. Did you know? And I'll just show this. Delusions of grandeur is actually a subset. There are 3 kinds of paranoid disorder, and that's paranoid disorders. Delusions of grandeur is one of those things. So I'm like, and this is why I'm bringing this to you, because I know I've been paranoid in the past. So let's just talk about what I imagine for my future. And so I said the thing that I'm about ready to say to you. And I said it, like I said, way more raw, way more honest, with a lot of swears, because that's how I am. And he said, I don't think that's delusional, Michelle. I think that's really brave. So I am delighted to let you know that I will save a front row seat for you, and I will be filling a stadium because of what I teach and because of the ways that it will change the world. So when I fill the stadium, you've got a front row seat. Well, it might be the front section. I mean, let's be honest. But you're there, we're there. And I am going to be delighted to come back and be on your podcast then. How do you like them apples for being audacious?
I like it. Put a number on how big of a stadium.
Fair. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. See, this is where I start. When I'm like, I'm not good at math. I don't even know how much stadiums hold. Is it 100,000? Is it 30,000? I don't know. What is it?
100,000 is really large. If it's a basketball stadium, like that, like a concert or something, 20, 30,000.
Oh yeah, I'd like a concert stadium. See, when I was in 6th grade, this is as I'm like laying out my delusions for my mentor, I like went clear back to being 2 years old and watching the little kids on the stage, and I wanted to be on that stage. My sister was on the stage, and I'm like, I want to be up there. And then I remember being in 6th grade. I love music, but I've never wanted to be a musician, and thinking I'm going to be a rock star. And then when I grew up and I saw thought leaders, I was like, oh, I never wanted to be a rock star. I always wanted to be a thought leader. I always wanted to be a speaker, teacher, coach. I just didn't know what that was in 6th grade. So definitely 30,000. That's where I'm going now.
Great. Love it.
All right.
We planted the flag, and you're welcome.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Master Your Millions with Jason and Scott Henderson. Check the show notes for any links or contact information about today's guest. Make sure to follow the show so you don't miss any future episodes.